I've been sitting here for the past probably 5 or 6 minutes. Obviously I'll edit that out, but I've literally been recording for that long, and there are just so many thoughts that have been going through my head of how I would open for this episode, which is my second episode of Emerging Insights. And I mean, I can list like the specific topic that I chose for this episode, but yet I still feel this compulsion, and it is a compulsion to explain a little bit because, I'm calling this a podcast, except it's not quite a podcast yet. It's just gonna be me talking about like my personal journey of self-love. So it's probably more like, a video diary or something like that. Um, but I think one of the reasons why I'm including this as part of the podcast is it's very much related to some of what I think I will be talking about today. And um, I didn't necessarily expect that I would be talking this much about my neurodivergent brain. um, because I only was diagnosed with ADHD 5 years ago and diagnosed with autism, um, I guess 4.5 months ago. It's funny how particular I can be sometimes about things. And one of the things that's going through my mind, like, I chose to not edit out the like stumblings and the pauses and the sighs and the extended silence. I chose to leave that in because it's a lot of ways just how I talk. uh, and I always feel bad because it probably drives a lot of people crazy. Like, could you just come out with it already? Um, anyway, um, and so the thing is, like I said, I was diagnosed with ADHD like 5 years ago, and there's a lot that made sense about that diagnosis. And so I've had a lot more time also to see how my ADHD brain comes through. And a big one is all the ways that my mind goes on tangents. And so that's another thing that I worry, like, are people going to follow me? Follow along, stick through it. But again, I know people will click away. I'm not for them. They're not needing what I have to share. Um, oh, so ultimately I would like to be able to make this a podcast where I talk about ideas and possibilities and curiosities that I have with other people. Um, and yet I think I have this need of being understood. And so like, especially once I got my autism diagnosis, I've realized like there seems to be a connection. And see, I'm already going to interrupt myself because I also have this thought about I know like labels and diagnosis and pathologizing things like can be extremely problematic. And, if you get too bogged down with labels and language and words and like all of that kind of stuff and meaning, it can actually potentially do more harm than good. But, another point I wanted to make is my verbal processing is going to be very paradoxical because that is a big core of my belief system right now is an idea of embracing paradox. And it kind of was perfect because around the time that I was really starting to like explore that concept, or actually I've been exploring it for a while, but once I got this autism diagnosis, it felt like natural because it helps me understand more why not everything that seemed to be helpful for ADHD was working for me. And so, like, with my autism brain, it's like I feel like I can't be understood unless people have like a complete context to work from, like a full understanding. And so when I was mapping this out, and I still am glad that I at least made my first episode about the start of this journey of discovering, you know, that I didn't love myself, which was like, over 20 years ago when that happened. And, you know, while I did a lot of like self-reflection and everything, I wasn't really able to, I think, feel like I could start to turn that around until I got my ADHD diagnosis. And already what I'm struggling with is when I was mapping out this podcast, or at least the initial episodes for this podcast like 3 years ago, I wanted to give this chronological timeline of pivotal events of my life leading up to when I got my ADHD diagnosis. But earlier today, I was reflecting on some stuff related to recent events. And I was like, I have to talk about, this next. And I'm struggling because I'm jumping the timeline. I'm going out of sequence. Um, and I'm kind of having a hard time with that. Um, but I also want to lean into what I had recently realized about how this initial part of this journey of me actually recording these videos and discussing my emerging insights about myself, about self-love, about relationships with everyone, like all of this kind of stuff it's going to be organic. So, and I'm going to be literally kind of like playing around with this dialogue of my present self dialoguing with my past self. So, all right, what I mainly want to talk about today is this notion of, well, it's related to what I said in the last episode. Like, when I realized that I didn't love myself, I my initial step was having this firm belief that I needed to get to the bottom of how that belief came to be. Like how did I come to believe that? Um, to feel that way about myself. And so like there was this drive to like be very analytical and like reflect and um is a very mental kind of a thing where I was coming from at the time. And so it's like kind of digging into understanding myself and understanding how this came to be. And and see, here's the other thing, which is why I'm like hoping that people who stick with me appreciate how sort of raw and sort of disorganized I might seem with what I discuss in my episodes, especially here at the beginning. Like, I'm recording this only just a few days after I uploaded my first episode. So, um, anyway, um, so, so I'm saying like when I back then was like examining this notion of how I came to have this belief. It's like essentially me trying to understand myself. And what's coming up for me now, it's like I now have some insights that I didn't have back then. That I am neurodivergent. I am autistic. I am ADHD. I have ADHD. However, you might think of it, say it, whatever. Um, and I think especially with the autism, because I haven't known as much about that. Um, and a lot of that has to do with how uh, maybe I'll put this in, maybe I won't. Sarah's at least going to see this. um, what distracted me just now was my phone was buzzing and it's my mom. And my mom is a big part of why I've been struggling lately because I feel like I'm still not totally understanding myself. It's like, how can I meet my own needs if I don't even understand what my needs are? And ultimately, what led to my autism diagnosis is what's been happening with my mom the past couple of years because you know, I'm in my late 40s and she's in her early 80s, and it's been a major transition. I'm an only child, and um, a lot of it's at least felt, or I've taken on like a lot to help her. Unfortunately, to the um, it seems like such a harsh word, but it is the only word that's coming to mind right now, to the neglect of myself. And that's really hard to admit because I love my mom. She loves me so much and she wants so much for me. And when I can't have that for myself, it's sort of really hard. So, like, since I'm bringing it up, I mean, all of my attention and energy was going to like helping her um, get situated and sorted, you know, a lot of change, a lot of transition. And what's been the hardest thing is, um, you know, I had been diagnosed with ADHD 5 years ago. And so I was maybe just starting to get some like understanding and insight where I could start to implement actual like supports and strategies and things that were going to be helpful. And with all this that was happening with my mom the last couple of years, I more and more ended up neglecting myself in a number of ways. And and also because of that, then struggling to keep up with what I believed were needs that she has and had. And it's like, if I've never really figured out how to care for myself effectively, now I've got her um, on top of that. So it's almost felt doubled. And then I have, the guilt of struggling with this. And one of my default coping mechanisms is avoidance. And I was like, and it definitely taps into a belief of mine that, you know, you can't give from an empty cup. And my cup was mostly empty for a lot. And so I would continue to try to like find ways to focus more on myself, and it was hard, it was difficult, and um and it still it feels so selfish putting myself first. And yet at the same time it's like, can I really be of service to her if I myself am not in a more in a healthier way, if I'm not meeting my own needs? I really don't want to be editing these episodes too much. We'll see if I keep that bit that I just discussed, but it's frustrating because it's really just that it's really taken me out of where my head was to try to like dig into what I wanted to talk about here. Because my current therapist is someone I've been seeing her since 2018. And um, something that came up in a recent session with her was I have this strong desire to advocate and be an advocate for a lot of different groups. Um, there's so much inequity in this world. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I feel very passionately about wanting to do something, but it's hard when I myself am not quite equipped to take that on. But what came up in my session was, exploring the idea of how can I advocate for myself. And so this is one of the things that led me to decide, yes, this is what I'm going to talk about for my second episode. If I am going to slightly divert from my like chronological life, pivotal life moments, um, this feels right to talk about because it's something I need to talk about. It's something I need to process. And I kind of did want to use, since I was making at least the initial episodes of this about my own journey of self-love, be this kind of verbal processing tool. I'm getting all self-conscious. Wondering if I'm forcing this right now. So the other thing that I had done earlier today, I was having a conversation with a friend, and there was something that she had said to me the other day. And when we were talking today, I was like, what you said the other day made me want to look up this old journal entry from 3 years ago that I've titled, this is my journal entry's title, is I'm looking, I wish I could find my own Monica Geller. So I am a huge fan of the TV show Friends. And I'm going to go ahead and throw this out here too. This is connected, trust me. I'm a huge fan of Maya Bialik's podcast, Maya Bialik's Breakdown. And she just released a couple episodes with Lisa Kudrow. And watching their whole conversation was like wonderful. I just loved watching it. And so that also kind of brought this old journal entry to mind. And so what I mean by wishing I could find, especially at that time, 3 years ago, I was in a very isolated place. It was, COVID was not really as much of an issue, but I still felt in a very kind of isolated place. And so a lot of the things that I struggle with, um, nutrition, meal planning, cooking, like I can cook, like, and I can follow recipes and all that kind of stuff. But there's like all these steps involved, and there's the shopping. And then, once you do the shopping, ensuring that you actually consume the food that you've purchased. Blah, blah, blah. And the other thing is like home organization and cleaning and all of that kind of stuff. And for those people who are familiar with and are fans of Friends, like that's Monica Geller's whole thing. She's a professional chef, so she loves to cook. And she is maybe a little neurotic, her character, but like, she loves cleaning and organizing. And it's like, wouldn't it be great if, you know, I could have someone like that in my life? And the thing is, like, I kind of do have people like that. I have a couple of friends who are into cleaning and organizing and stuff. And yet it's still been hard for me to ask for and or accept their help when it's offered. Um, and one of the things that I talked about in that journal entry was like this notion of even when I sometimes accept help, I am I have very few responsibilities in my life right now. And for most of my life, I've had very few responsibilities. And I can go in more detail in other episodes. But the point is, like, even accepting or taking in some help, eventually it still somehow comes down to me. And it got me thinking about this notion of like, um, this kind of like mindset that I hear in society, this belief you can't rely on other people, you have to rely on yourself. And there's something about being on your own primarily where that seems even more true. Um, and this too, I don't know, I might have to re-record this episode because this is just feeling way worse. I don't know. We'll see. So, like I said, when I was talking about, you know, having this more recent autism diagnosis and this knowing I've had my whole life this compulsion to want to provide as much context as possible. And it seems like I have to give like the whole history that leads up to like where I am now, or, you know, the main point that I want to make isn't fully going to land. Um, it is in a lot of ways born from this, you know, need to be understood. It's born from this fear that I've also had of miscommunication and misunderstanding. And it's a big part of why I'm very careful with the words that I use because, you know, we have language, and if we speak the same language as another person, you know, we can use a lot of words, and there's a level of meaning that we all agree on, but there's still so much nuance to how that meaning is interpreted by each person based on their relationship with certain words and things. And so I have a belief that's the root of a lot of miscommunication and misunderstanding, which leads to divisiveness. Um, but the point is like not feeling seen, not feeling understood. And there's certain people in my life, especially that I'm very close with, that I've struggled a lot. And it seems even more so lately to feel like I'm truly seen and understood. And yet I do a lot. I put a lot of and have had put a lot of effort into trying to figure out ways to explain myself in a way that they can hopefully it can hopefully feel like they do understand me. Um, and the revelation that I had is when I started to explore this question of how do I advocate for myself, as in, you know, I look at certain groups of people and I'm just like, it's not okay that these people are ignored, dismissed, overlooked. Um, that's not okay. And yet, I've actually been doing this to myself. Um, and then I think about what I was talking about in my first episode of once I realized I didn't love myself. And I'm not claiming that that's the case now, but it's a lot more nuanced now than it was then. But it's like I needed to understand why, because it didn't make sense. So there was something about myself that I wasn't understanding. And with especially this recent autism diagnosis, it feels like there's still a lot about myself that I don't understand. And it's not so much that like when I got it, it actually, and the little that I have learned about it, it's like there is a lot that makes perfect sense that this isn't a fluke kind of a thing. Yeah, I'm definitely on the spectrum. Um, but the big sort of like mind blowing moment for me was how I've been trying to understand myself or how I've felt out of place is because it's like I've been comparing myself, like I've been feeling like a failure through the lens of what, at least in my mind, I have interpreted through the culture that I have grown up in, through the media that I have consumed over the course of my life, through the various different relationships that I've had with friends, family, etc. Like, and I'm not blaming individual people. I'm to some degree blaming culture. Um, but this is just a big thing with, I think, people who are neurodivergent. It's like this world was built, the current state, I think, of our societal landscape is built on what is considered to be neurotypical and what is deemed successful ways of going through life seem to really only be doable by people who are neurotypical. Or even if it's doable by people who are neurodivergent, they were somehow able to develop coping skills or whatever, or there's like areas of life where I get so bogged down with making sure I don't exclude people or that I don't come off criticizing a particular group of people or whatever. Um, anyway, the point is, I think this is the disconnect, and this is sort of what I was hoping to talk about, that maybe as I talk about this, I can insights can emerge from me just kind of like stumbling through exploring this notion of what does this mean? Realizing that I've been trying to understand myself in the context of how society has functioned and how I've been conditioned to think uh, the way that society should be functioning. Um, should have put my phone on do not disturb. I was really hoping I could just record myself and put this up, and maybe I will be able to, if I decide not to use this particular video, maybe I'll start it over and see if I have a, if I'm more successful. But like, I don't want to get too caught up in trying and then it not quite going the way that I'd hoped, and then worrying that the sloppy way that it comes off is not going to work. But I have decided, because at the end of my last video, I said I didn't have a good ending. And then I think I just came out with what feels like the right way to end. Although there is also, it does feel a little bit cheesy, but for people who know me, it kind of makes sense. With love and harmony, thanks for listening.